The 2026 Space Summit is underway here in Singapore as satellites become essential to connectivity, security and disaster response. Discussions are increasingly focused on how nations can work together to build resilient space infrastructure. For more on this, let's cross over to Julie Yu, who is reporting live from the summit. Julie.
Yeah, Jen, thank you. I mean, it's a debate that goes to the heart of how we use space safely and responsibly. I spoke earlier with Laurent Jaffart of the European Space Agency about the growing debate over whether countries should each build their own satellite constellations or rely on shared systems to operate more efficiently and safely in orbit.
It's a sovereign question. Each nation has the right to say, I would like to have my own capability. I don't want to be dependent on anyone to be able to observe what is happening in my country or around my country. However, if there is a very big fragmentation, all these systems will be done in isolation and would not necessarily be interoperable. We would not be able to work in coalitions of willing, where we could share data that each country actually is receiving, and it's a scale question. How do you have enough capabilities in space so that the data you receive are sufficiently fresh, recent, that you can actually take decisions, whether it is for defense or resilience topic, or whether it is for more civilian topic like climate change. We need to observe, and a lot of the changes can only be observed from space.
Oh, okay, so what is your vision of a unified and resilient space strategy going forward?
It's all about defining interoperability standards, avoiding vendor lock situation, meaning being stuck to a proprietary solution, and to work on the question of standardization. If standards are defined, they can be shared and applied. If we all have our own systems, we will work in isolation.
I see. So, I mean, just looking at the existing treaties or initiative that we have in hand, it's still evolving. Some say it's too fragmented, that it is still inadequate. What needs to, what do you think is urgently needed right now before space becomes a theater of active conflict?
I think that we need to be conscious that space is a common good. Space is not the proprietary area of one country or one actor. And therefore we need to preserve the peaceful use of space as much as possible. What we need to work on is to be able to cooperate even if we have different interests. Of course, and that's unfortunately the reality, we may see more aggressive moves in space. In fact, we've seen countries deploying missiles to shoot their own satellites, creating debris. We believe that these actions are really damaging the ability to use this common good. And contrary to the oceans, we follow different physical laws in space. So once we create debris, it will take a lot of time before those are simply burning down with gravity, re-entering the atmosphere. And the risk is that with the multiplication of debris, we will have collisions and therefore the creation of additional debris. That is the nightmare scenario.
We certainly don't want that, do we? But who is responsible to keep space safe? Is it operators, regulators, is it government?
So unfortunately, when it comes to this common goods, it's the willingness of the nations to come together and to act responsibly. We can regulate as the public sector, but we need to find the common denominator, and that requires willingness. For the commercial operators, they have a natural instinct of preserving the areas where they do business. And if the orbits are polluted and they are no longer able to create the service that they are selling, they will disappear. So there is a certain motivation, which is just being able to sustain the business. Is it sufficient? Should we have more responsibilities in the way we act? Should we think about assets which are more robust?
And that was Laurent Jaffart from the European Space Agency on why cooperation and responsibility will be critical as space becomes more crowded and more contested. But that's it from me at Space Summit 2026. Back to you, Jen.
Thank you, Julie. And that was Julie Yu there reporting live from the Space Summit in Singapore.